"Excuse me, ma'am, what exactly are you doing here? The welfare office is 3 blocks down." Brian Mitchell's voice cut through the hushed marble lobby of Grand Union Bank like a cold blade. From behind the teller counter, he glanced up, wearing that well-practiced smirk, the one that dripped with condescension, as he took in the sight of a black woman in an expensive tailored suit approaching. Danielle Brooks froze for half a beat. She could feel the lunchtime crowd's eyes turning toward her. Brian's smirk widened, and his voice rose deliberately, carrying across the lobby, "This is a private bank, not a check-cashing joint. People like you are always trying to pass fake checks or pull some scam." He pointed toward the doors, as if shooing away a stray dog. "The ATM's outside, assuming you've got an EBT card." The lobby fell into silence, broken only by the faint clicking of cell phone cameras being raised. Standing just behind Danielle was Maria Alvarez, a freelance journalist. She tilted her phone, went live on Instagram, and typed the title, "Racism in Broad Daylight at Grand Union Bank." Danielle set a withdrawal slip on the counter, her voice calm but edged with weight. "I'd like to withdraw $25,000 from my account." Brian laughed, a sharp, metallic sound. 25 grand. That's more than most people make in a year. What's the angle here? He crumpled the slip slightly in his fingers, giving her a slow once-over. "Let me guess. You're about to tell me you're a CEO or a business owner." Heard that one before. A white woman in a business suit whispered to her friend, "Somebody should call security." An elderly black man just shook his head, the tired look of someone who'd seen this scene play out too many times. From behind a glass office, branch manager Karen Whitmore stepped out. Her heels clicked sharply against the marble, eyes scanning the situation with the wariness of someone who had handled dozens of similar incidents. "What's going on, Brian?" Brian seized the opening. "This customer's attempting a suspicious withdrawal. 25,000. Paperwork looks shaky." Karen arched a brow. "That is unusual. Ma'am, do you have valid ID? For withdrawals of that size, we need to verify employment." Danielle produced her driver's license and her Grand Union Bank Platinum card, her name embossed in shimmering silver. Brian barely glanced before scoffing. "Fake IDs are pretty sophisticated these days, even the logos look real." He held up the card like evidence. "I see fakes like this every month." Maria's livestream view count ticked past 1,000 ET. Comments flooded in. "Unbelievable. Call the press. What's this bank's address?" Danielle's tone stayed professional. "I've been a client here for 6 years. My account number is right on the card and this ID." Karen folded her arms, standing beside Brian. "We have strict protocols for certain types of accounts. It's for the protection of the bank and our customers." The phrase, "certain types of accounts," hung in the air, heavy with implication. From the back, security guard Jerome Harris stepped forward. 12 years on the job, he recognized the reality here, but the uniform required him to play the part of the pressure wall. "Jerome, we may need your assistance," Karen said, loud enough for the room to hear. Danielle's phone buzzed, meeting with the Federal Reserve, 2 p.m. She silenced it without a glance. Brian crossed his arms, leaning back. "I see this game every day. Fake docs, sob stories, trying to score a quick payday. But this is Grand Union Bank. We serve real customers with real money." Maria kept her camera trained on Danielle's face under the chandelier light. Karen pulled a thick folder from under her arm. "We'll need proof of income, the source of the funds, and the purpose of the withdrawal." On the counter, Danielle's leather briefcase stayed shut inside. Boardroom documents capable of reshaping the banking industry. But here, all they saw was the color of her skin. Brian glanced at his monitor, inventing details as he spoke. "This account's got multiple red flags. Additional screening is mandatory." The live stream crossed 2,000 viewers. The hashtag number #BankingWhileBlack started trending on Twitter. The elevator doors opened. Regional Director David Lang stepped out in a grey suit, face etched with urgency. "What's happening here?" Karen was quick to jump in, framing it to Danielle's disadvantage. "Large withdrawal, questionable paperwork." Brian spotted multiple irregularities. David nodded, turning to Danielle. I'm David Lang, Regional Director. I understand there's a bit of confusion over procedure. Danielle met his gaze. There's no confusion. I'm withdrawing my own money. David pressed his lips together. Scams are getting more sophisticated every day. We have to protect our customers from criminal activity. Jerome quietly offered. Maybe we should step into a private room. David cut him off. Number transparency matters. Everyone here should see how seriously we take security. The livestream comments exploded. Blatant racism. Get a lawyer. NAC needs to get on this now. Maria Alvarez's livestream hit 5,200 viewers. Shares skyrocketing across every platform. An elderly woman in a pale blue dress and wool coat stepped up to the counter. Impatience written all over her face. Excuse me, I need to make a deposit before you close for lunch. Brian Mitchell looked up, his voice deliberately grave. Ma'am, we're in the middle of a security situation. This woman is trying to withdraw a very large sum with questionable documentation. The older customer shot Danielle Brooks a frosty look. Well, I suppose you have to be careful these days. All sorts of people trying to take advantage. Another voice cut through the tension. Andre Collins, a young black loan officer who'd been watching from the sidelines, finally stepped forward. This is ridiculous. She has valid ID and a bank card. What more do you need? Sir, please don't interfere with security procedures, Karen Whitmore snapped. We have protocols for a reason. The room split down the middle, some customers nodding along with the bank staff, others clearly seeing the discrimination for what it was. Maria's camera swept across the lobby, capturing every glare, every muttered comment, every second of institutional bias playing out in real time. I'm going to need additional documentation, David Lang declared, pulling out a thick stack of forms, employment verification, tax returns, proof of funds, and a detailed statement of purpose for this withdrawal. Danielle's phone buzzed non-stop assistant, attorney, board members. A text from her lawyer flashed across the screen. I'm watching the live stream. Do you need me to step in? She ignored it all, standing calm and unmoving, like a statue in the eye of a storm. This is standard procedure for large transactions, David added, his tone drenched in false sincerity. 20 minutes until the executive meeting. The PA system announced. Susan checked her watch, frustrated, but knew the situation had already spun out of control. Ma'am, we'll need to contact your employer, David continued. Where do you work? In his mind, the answer would be something modest, maybe even menial. Danielle smiled. I work for myself. Brian snorted. Self? Employed? Let me guess, consultant or entrepreneur with no paperwork. Viewership climbed to 7,800. News outlets started embedding the video. The hashtag number Grand Union discrimination was climbing fast. Jerome Harris stepped forward. Ma'am, I'll need to see another form of ID, your social security card, and any employment records you have. His voice was apologetic, but the uniform forced him into the role. Danielle handed everything over without a word. Jerome, run it through the fraud detection system, David ordered. A new group of customers walked in. A black woman in her 30s raised her phone. Are you seriously harassing her over a withdrawal? This is 2024, not 1,964. Please don't interfere, Susan snapped. This is procedure. What procedure? I've withdrawn more than that and never had a problem, the woman shot back. Susan's cheeks flushed red. Everyone could see it now, other customers breezing through transactions, while Danielle was interrogated like a criminal. Maria's phone battery warning popped up, but by now dozens of other live streams had picked up the feed. The story was racing across social media, newsrooms, and civil rights organizations. 15 minutes until the executive meeting. The PA announced again. David's radio crackled. Corporate security wants an update on the live stream situation. Headquarters was watching. The company's lawyers were no doubt already on the line. You'll need to wait several hours for this process to be completed, David said coldly. It was a naked threat. Danielle didn't flinch. Jerome couldn't meet her eyes. Maria's viewer count hit 12,400, with lawyers and journalists flooding the comments. The air in the lobby was ready to snap. 10 minutes until the executive meeting came the next announcement. That was when Danielle slowly opened her leather briefcase. The movement made the entire crowd lean forward. Viewership spiked to 15,600. The comments rolled in. "Something's about to go down." She pulled out a business card and placed it on the counter in front of Brian. He glanced at it, then chuckled dismissively. Danielle Brooks, President and CEO, Brooks Financial Group. Cute. Another cheap fake. But David stepped closer, eyes narrowing. The name sparked a memory, and then his face went still. Danielle produced a second card, this one bearing the Grand Union Bank logo in raised print. Board member, class A shareholder, voting rights. David's face drained of color. His voice dropped to a near whisper. You're on the board?" "Not just on the board, Mr. Lang," Danielle said, her voice carrying across the marble hall. "Brooks Financial Group owns 31% of Grand Union. We're the largest shareholder." The lobby went dead silent. Brian dropped the business card. Susan took a step back as if she'd been physically struck. Viewership exploded to 28,400 inch under 30 seconds. Comments lit up. "Best plot twist ever. She owns the bank." Danielle opened the briefcase wider, revealing documents stamped confidential. "Today's executive meeting is the quarterly board session, and I just conducted an unannounced customer experience review." Her eyes locked on Brian. "Congratulations. You've just provided live data for my discrimination report." David's grip tightened on his radio. "All branch managers to the conference room now. Code red." This is not a drill, but the damage was already far beyond the reach of any crisis plan. Maria Alvarez's livestream had become a global storm. CNN, Mississippi, NBC, Fox News, Reuters, BBC, every major outlet had embedded the feed on their front pages. The hashtag number bank owner discrimination was trending in 42 countries, from Twitter to LinkedIn, TikTok to Reddit. The executive elevator slid open. Claire Emerson, senior aide to bank chairman Robert Sterling, stepped out, her face pale. She'd been monitoring social media and knew exactly how catastrophic this had become. The Federal Reserve Banking Committee was notified of this incident 12 minutes ago. Danielle Brooks said without looking up from her phone, "Our compliance division is under standing orders to report any discriminatory practices immediately." She held up her screen, displaying the official contact list of government agencies. Senator Elizabeth Warren's office is watching Maria's live stream. The House Financial Services Committee has been alerted as well. Brian Mitchell's face drained from red to chalk white. Never in his career had he imagined a single decision at the teller line could trigger a federal investigation, or worse, a congressional hearing. "Miss Brooks, I want to extend my sincerest apologies for this misunderstanding." David Lang began, his voice shaky, caught between corporate damage control and the dawning realization of the fallout. "There is no misunderstanding, Mr. Lang," Danielle cut in, her leadership presence filling the lobby. "This is systemic discrimination, documented from multiple angles. And it's exactly why Brooks Financial requires bias training across every company in our investment portfolio." She withdrew a binder-stamped federal compliance. Violating the Equal Credit Opportunity Act carries penalties of up to $500,000 per occurrence. The Community Reinvestment Act mandates equal service to all customers regardless of race. Each word landed like a legal blade. Danielle had been a financial attorney before becoming a CEO. She knew banking law better than most of the executives in the room. "Our legal division 23 attorneys are already reviewing this live stream," she continued, holding out a contact sheet listing former Treasury officials, federal judges, and congressional advisors. Every frame has been logged into evidence. Viewership blew past 38,000. Banking trade journals and investment firms were ablaze with commentary. "I was just following security protocol," Brian offered, his voice edging into desperation. "Then show me the protocol that states black customers are presumed fraudulent until proven otherwise," Danielle said coldly. No one answered. No one dared. Susan Whitmore attempted to interject. "Ma'am, perhaps we can resolve this internally." "This left internal 40 minutes ago," Danielle replied. "When you threatened to call federal authorities on your bank's largest shareholder." She flipped to a stock app and turned her phone toward them. Grand Union Bank shares are down 4.2% in after-hours trading. That's roughly $340 million in market cap gone. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some customers exchanged looks, realizing they were witnessing a corporate earthquake. Brooks Financial's investment philosophy puts ESG at the forefront, Danielle went on. And this incident represents a gross breach of our partnership standards. She revealed another document, stamped confidential, divestment procedure. Our board approved immediate divestment if a pattern of discrimination is confirmed. This live stream is confirmation. Jerome Harris stepped forward. "Miss Brooks, I want to apologize." "Mr. Harris," Danielle said, locking eyes with him, "your superiors created this situation, not you. Your professional integrity is noted." The tension in his shoulders eased slightly, and Maria's camera caught it in full frame. Danielle's phone buzzed. Alerts from BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, all three were tracking the incident closely as a test of corporate accountability. The elevator doors opened again. Robert Sterling, chairman of Grand Union Bank, stepped out, hair disheveled. He bypassed his entire staff and went straight to Danielle. "Miss Brooks, this incident does not reflect Grand Union's core values." Danielle tilted her head slightly, her tone sharp as glass. "Mr. Sterling, this incident reflects exactly the problem we've documented. Systemic bias, inadequate training, and leadership that ignores the signs of discrimination instead of stopping them." She slid an internal audit report across the counter. 47 discrimination complaints at Grand Union branches in the past 6 months, 78% involving customers of color. Robert Sterling's hand trembled as he took the detailed breakdown from Danielle Brooks. 78% of complaints involved customers of color. 63% occurred at branches where management showed the same bias patterns now playing out before them. At the teller line, Brian Mitchell stood frozen, as if he'd just received a career death sentence. Susan Whitmore clutched her supervisor badge like a life preserver, but her eyes betrayed the truth she was already sinking. "The financial impact goes far beyond the stock dip," Danielle said, pulling up after-hours trading data on her phone. "Brooks Financial owns 31% of Grand Union. That gives us a direct say in corporate governance and in executive compensation." Sterling fumbled for his tablet, searching for the crisis playbook, but it was painfully clear. Nothing in it could withstand the structural collapse bearing down on them. "Miss Brooks," he asked, his voice taut as a piano wire, "what immediate actions would demonstrate we are committed to rooting out this systemic problem?" Danielle pointed directly at the 3 people who had created the firestorm. Mitchell terminated immediately for violating federal anti-discrimination law. Whitmore suspended pending a full investigation into her management practices. And Mr. Lang's regional post needs to be reviewed right now. His handling of this proves a systemic failure in compliance. David Lang's face drained. In banking, a regional manager with a proven bias record rarely comes back from it. Danielle's voice stayed calm and razor-sharp. The CRA requires member banks to serve all communities equally. Today's incident, combined with the widespread discrimination data, will be classified by federal regulators as a repeat, systemic violation. Sterling's phone wouldn't stop buzzing corporate counsel, federal agencies, board members all watching the live stream. Maria Alvarez's camera caught the exact moment Sterling realized the avalanche he faced. Federal investigation, class action lawsuits, and losing his most powerful shareholder. Brooks Financial maintains relationships with institutional investors, controlling $2.3 trillion in assets, Danielle said, flashing a contact sheet for BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. All 3 are watching tonight's response as a litmus test for corporate accountability. The message was unmistakable. If they pulled their money alongside Brooks, Grand Union would freefall. Danielle opened what might as well have been an ultimatum. You have 24 hours to deliver a comprehensive reform plan. It must include Immediate termination of all staff involved in this incident, plus a review of all past discrimination records. Mandatory bias recognition training for all customer-facing employees 40 hours. Annual recertification. Real-time AI monitoring of all interactions, flagging potential bias. An independent civil rights auditor reporting directly to the board. A $25 million fund for minority-owned businesses and community financial education. She met Sterling's eyes. Refuse, and we will divest between $1.2 and $2 billion. Her phone screen displayed live market data algorithms were already pricing in a potential institutional investor exodus. I have 2 kids and a mortgage, Mitchell tried to plead. Then show me where in policy it says racial profiling is allowed. Danielle cut him off. Point to the page in the training manual that says black customers are presumed criminals. Mitchell said nothing, because there was nothing. Yet he'd acted as if there was. Whitmore made a last-ditch attempt. We were just following security protocols for large withdrawals. I've withdrawn more than this here before without a single protocol, Danielle replied. The only difference today is the color of my skin. Viewership had hit 67,000. The European Union had already cited the incident in its oversight discussions of US banks. Sterling glanced at the clock. The next 24 hours would decide whether Grand Union survived or became a case study in institutional collapse in the digital age. The following day, in the Grand Union boardroom, Sterling opened the emergency session. First National Corporation accepts full responsibility for yesterday's discriminatory incident. We will immediately implement a comprehensive reform program. Maria's original livestream had surpassed 3.2 million views. The hashtag number bank owner reveal had dominated social feeds for 18 straight hours. Mitchell has been terminated effective immediately, Sterling announced. An internal investigation uncovered a 7-year pattern of unchecked bias, with 34 complaints mishandled. Danielle sat at the head of the table, her voice like ice. And Whitmore? Susan Whitmore was terminated on the spot. The board's written decision stated plainly she had failed at the highest level of oversight by condoning discriminatory conduct she had personally witnessed. David Lang, knowing there was no path back, submitted his resignation. He understood perfectly well that his lax regional leadership had allowed systemic bias to spread across multiple branches. His departure would open the door to investigations at other locations, where similar patterns had gone unchecked for years. Robert Sterling read aloud the comprehensive reform package that all 12 board members had just voted to approve. Startup budget, $67 million for the first year. It sounded massive until you compared it to the worst-case scenario: federal intervention, the loss of the largest shareholder, and a mass investor exodus. Jerome Washington walked into the boardroom in a freshly tailored suit, a new badge pinned to his chest. Chief Compliance and Customer Protection Officer. His unanimous promotion from security guard to the executive floor was a reward for integrity and courage in the middle of crisis. The bias training program will launch Monday across all 342 branches, he reported. Every customer-facing employee will complete 40 hours of certification within 60 days, covering implicit bias recognition, de-escalation techniques, and federal anti-discrimination law. Maya Alvarez, the woman who had stood behind Danielle Brooks and captured the entire incident on her phone, now sat at the table as Director of External Communications. Her citizen journalism background and inside perspective on documenting bias made her indispensable to the new transparency strategy. The AI monitoring system will begin pilot testing next week, she said. Real-time analysis of all interactions will alert managers the moment bias indicators appear. Brooks Financial had invested in advanced AI discrimination detection software, capable of identifying language patterns, tone shifts, and escalation cues after only a few lines of conversation. The most headline-grabbing appointment came from outside the bank. Dr. Angela Davis, former Justice Department attorney, now the independent civil rights inspector, with direct reporting authority to the board and the power to investigate complaints and terminate violators. Kesha Brooks, the very person misjudged as a fraud suspect, the day before looked around the table and delivered her own announcement. The $25 million Community Investment Fund will be released immediately, supporting minority-owned businesses and financial literacy in underserved communities. News spread quickly. Rival banks began voluntarily adopting similar reforms. Sterling received emails from the Federal Reserve, the FDIC, and the OCC, commending First National's rapid response and holding it up as a potential reform model for the entire industry. What could have been a legal nightmare was now being cited at federal conferences as a case study in proactive accountability. On screen, the stock chart leapt upward, not only recovering, but surpassing pre-crisis levels. ESG funds hailed First National as a living example of a corporation transformed by substantive reform. Brooks Financial not only maintained but increased its ownership stake, sending a powerful signal to the market. 6 months from now, we'll review every program, Kesha declared. If it's working, we expand the partnership. If it fails, we divest publicly, naming every shortfall. These accountability measures ensured the reforms wouldn't just live on paper. The documentary Owning Justice, A Banking Revolution, directed by Maya, chronicled the entire event through the lens of citizen journalism. It premiered at Cannes and won the Palme d'Or for Best Documentary. It all started with a smartphone, Maya told an interviewer. It proved that anyone can hold power accountable if they have the courage to record the truth. Since then, the Brooks Financial Equality Fund had issued $127 million in business loans to minority entrepreneurs, creating over 8,400 jobs. Jerome Washington had become a sought-after keynote speaker at banking conferences, telling his journey from security guard to executive as proof of integrity's value. Brian Mitchell, the former teller at the center of it all, completed an intensive bias training program and now worked at a credit union, often sharing his story as a cautionary tale about unconscious prejudice. 1 year later, Kesha stood at the podium of the Global Banking Equality Summit before delegates from 47 countries. "Dignity is not negotiable in financial services," she said. "We have created a framework that protects millions of customers worldwide." The numbers backed her up. Discrimination complaints dropped 52% at institutions that adopted the Brooks standard. Minority business lending rose 34% across the industry. The model spread into healthcare, retail, hospitality, anywhere investors realized economic leverage could drive social justice. Real stories have real power, Kesha concluded. When injustice is documented and accountability is demanded with a clear strategy, change will come, and it will come faster than anyone thought possible. From the moment she was humiliated at the teller counter to the day she led a global reform movement, Kesha's journey was living proof that in today's world, justice doesn't just come from the courts, it comes from the market, from data, and from a community that refuses to stay silent. This is more than a story. It is a call to action. When we witness injustice, we must document it, share it, and demand accountability. The tools are in our hands: smartphones, platforms, and unyielding determination. Danielle's journey shows that systemic change begins with a single spark, but it grows through shared voices. Let us carry forward her legacy by challenging inequity wherever it festers, ensuring dignity is not just promised, but delivered. Share this story to amplify the truth. Subscribe to the Velora Stories channel for more narratives that ignite change and inspire justice. Together, we can build a world where every voice is heard and every story matters.